This one was a struggle, I won't lie. But I finished it, so let's talk about it. So the series is Blue Reflection Ray, a magical girl anime from 2021. This series is additionally a spin-off of the Blue Reflection video game series. The actual anime focuses on two girls becoming reflectors, essentially magical girls, who can use their emotions to gain power. But our two learn that a group of evil magical girls are going around stealing other girls' emotions for their mastermind's nefarious goal, specifically targeting girls whose emotions are experiencing a spike of negative feelings. So our two and a few others need to come together so they can thwart this attempt, as well as occasionally deal with either someone or their own emotional trauma and learn that emotions are important, even if they're sad. But let's break down the issues this series has. First off, let's talk about characters. The main girls are rather basic, if I'm being generous, and bland and boring if I'm not. One's optimistic and outgoing, while the other is introverted and pessimistic, a classic duo dynamic. But Ruka, the introvert, isn't really built upon, other than reaching the point where they're like, yes, we're now friends, and we're one step away from dating each other, as is the modus operandi of all Magical Girls series. While Hiyori, the extroverted one, is much more integral to the plot, as her sister is part of the evil Magical Girls. But she doesn't really develop as a character. She does question her optimistic belief in the power of friendship for a second, only to go back to, yep, I was totally right, power of friendship, which of course works with the main message of the series about the importance of support, but doesn't make her that interesting of a character. But let's look at the side characters and antagonists. Momo works fine as the mentor and initial ace of the group before she gets benched halfway through. Miyako gives a voice of reason and, some common sense to the group. There's Ayumi and Eureka, a not yet formed lesbian couple, with the former having her emotions taken and the latter trying to help recover them. But on paper, this provides a good side story as the villains try to convince Eureka to join them as they promise that they will help Ayumi, while the heroes try to discover another way to gain their emotions back. Wish they were introduced a bit earlier so you have more tension out of this, but it is what it is. But let's go over our rogue gallery, which I take some issues with, as they're kind of lazily written. The core goal of our villains is to get enough emotion flowers so they can get enough power to rewrite the world and delete emotions. Mainly because the main villain is a victim of abuse, as her mother was part of a cult and forced her to watch her abuse her twin sister to death. Which seems a bit, misdirected, as you have an entire cult you could target instead of, just emotions in general. But I guess we're using the shorthand of, dark influence. She has a child brain. And look, it's Friday, and I need to send this script out in an hour, so we're just gonna go with what we got. Additionally, there's Nina, another victim of abuse, who's convinced that this is the right path because her role model said so. But she turns to the good side about halfway through and has to deal with the whole, oh no, I did bad things as a villain. But that barely gets any time to air before she overcomes it, and her trauma's gone now because friendship speech, which really undersells the struggle of dealing with long-term mental trauma. Lastly, there's Uda, and she's a sadomasochist. That's her only personality trait, and she is boring. Also, anime, I understand that running good, insane characters is not easy, but that's no excuse to just give a character the most simplistic take on a mental disorder and heading out for lunch. You can do better. But having lackluster characters isn't the biggest issue this series has. No, the biggest issue in this series is pacing, as the series is overlong and can't find a steady pace to save its life. The thing I feel causes this is the numerous episode-long backstories. I appreciate the effort you went through to explain how your characters reached the point they are now at, but we could have just, stuck with the Cliff Note version. For example, let's look at Nina. Nina grew up the daughter of a prostitute that abused her. She would run away after her death and eventually room with one of the villains, and later convinced to join the group. There is value going more in depth on this, but you don't need 1,000 words when 100 would do. The key point is that Nina sees Mio, Hiyori's sister, as her safety rock, and follows her almost blindly. What would really make her interesting is dissecting her character more. We could give that initial Cliff Note version and go in more detail in a later episode, after she essentially leaves the group, as she goes over her past and what to do now that her rock is gone, eventually leading to her joining the heroes. Or extend this and have her lose her powers, as the main source of her emotions is gone, and she now needs to find a new one to save our heroes. Have her go through a character arc. But back to pacing. This story feels like it needed a second passover to condense the plot, as certain episodes absolutely drag and feel like nothing happens. Then the series feels that we need to rush the ending. There is middle ground, and we can spend that time, having more cathartic fights and moments. Like they literally defeat the crazy girl by hitting her with a frying pan. No climactic fight with Nina, who, she's been feuding with. Just bang, we win. Other than that, the art style is distinctive, I guess. Not super strong, but nothing bad. There are some animation issues, but my biggest holdups are still the story and pacing. But if you just want to mindlessly consume sapphic magical girl content, feel free to consume. But you may want to check out the games over the anime, as people in the forums were saying that they were better. But take that with a pinch of salt.